The little drifter sits around in their room all day, watching some sulek training, whilst eating their glucose syrup Cocoa Pops. The drifter dreams about going to the gym, but never does, because they don't feel motivated. Meanwhile, the achievers go to the gym every day, eating clean and dedicated to building a body they are proud of. They don't sit around listening to advice from Sam Sulek or any of these other gym influencers, because the achiever wants to be healthy and fit.
So this shit crazy.
Someone tell DJ Khaled say another one. I CBA, so I'm not even talking. You want my ETA, I ain't left just yet.
Back in 2021, if someone asked me my hobbies, I would tell them watching gym YouTubers, and that's about it. I sat there for hours on end watching all these cute little gym YouTubers, learning all of this information and wishing I could have an aesthetic body like them, but I hadn't even stepped foot in a gym yet. Finally, I decided to actually go and hit the gym for once and get consistent. And fast forward 3 years, and I nearly have my dream body, and I've trained 5 other people to reach their goals. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to get that aesthetic physique you've always dreamed of. Now, just before I start off this video, I'll only be giving you the best exercises for the most aesthetic muscles to build, because these are the ones that you should be focusing on if you want to get an aesthetic body. Now, obviously, that isn't to say that you shouldn't focus on the other muscles, or you shouldn't train the other muscles. You should still train all of the other muscles that I don't mention. It's just that these ones should be your focus if you want to train specifically for aesthetics. So what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you the body part that you should be training that's most aesthetic, and the most optimal exercises that I personally do for that body part, which will help you grow them in the most aesthetic way and in the most optimal way. Now, one thing that I want to mention before I get started is you won't see me mention abs or any core sort of training or anything like that, because I feel like training abs is very, very overrated for a beginner. A lot of beginners, I see them going into the gym and just doing cardio or training abs or doing core workouts. It's like, sure, that's good. That's really good that you're training your core, but your body fat percentage is way too high for you to even start thinking about core right now or to start thinking about abs, because your abs won't become visible until you decide to cut down on your body weight or your body fat percentage. So first focus on your diet, and then you can start focusing on actually training your abs, otherwise your abs won't become visible. So it's pointless you doing all this training. You get a strong core, sure, but it won't actually help to bring your aesthetic abs into visibility. So now getting on with the video, the first aesthetic muscle group that you should focus on building is chest, and specifically the upper chest. Now, if you don't know, the chest has 3 different sections. The upper chest, which is like the clavicular area, and then the mid chest, and the lower chest, which is the costal area. So you do want to build all 3 parts of the chest to have a healthy, full chest, but you mainly want to focus on the upper, because that will help bring in a more fuller look for your chest, and also help you have that V-taper when it connects with your shoulders, which we'll get to in a second. So to start off with upper chest, we have the incline dumbbell press. Now with this one, I like to specifically do the dumbbell press, because with dumbbells you get a little bit more range of motion, and when you do an incline dumbbell press, you want to make sure that you've brought your arms in at a 45-degree angle instead of keeping them straight out, because having your arms straight out will place most of the tension on your elbow. You want to bring most of the tension into your chest and keep it there. And also keeping at that 45-degree angle will allow your arms to be in line with your chest fibers, hitting them a bit more better and getting that really deep stretch at the bottom. And now obviously you want to focus on your usual time under tension, taking the reps slowly and actually getting that deep stretch right at the bottom. You want to hold it there at the bottom for a little bit and then push it back up. The next exercise that we have for chest is deficit push-ups. So with a deficit push-up, it's like a normal push-up, except you're doing it slightly elevated, but only your hands are elevated. Meaning that when you do the push-up, you get a deeper deficit stretch, meaning that your chest can go lower than the point of which your hands are at. And therefore, you can get a really deep stretch within the middle and deep parts of your chest, and it stretches that tissue to an extent that a normal push-up just wouldn't get. Now, if you want to take this to another level, you can actually use a decline while doing this. Now, the benefit of using a decline is you'll be able to go even deeper and get an even deeper stretch. You just want to make sure that your hands are in the correct position, you're getting that correct form and all of that. So when you do these, you can either use plates or you can use dumbbells. I decided to use plates in the video. You just want to make sure that you have it high enough just so you can get your chest just below that hand level. The next exercise we have is machine chest flies. There's several different ways that you can do this exercise. You can use the pec deck, you can use the dumbbells, or you can use the cable machine. I personally prefer to use the cable machine and with a bench. The bench adds extra stability and allows me to get that really deep stretch while not bracing my core. I feel like if I don't have the bench there, you can only go up to a certain weight, and that limits me in terms of how much of a stretch I can get on the actual chest, in terms of actually isolating the chest. You look like a little bit of a goof while you set it up, but trust me, it is worth it for the stretch that you get on this exercise, because you can get that really deep stretch right at the bottom of the movement, and then push it right back up there and hold it there for a second, and then slowly bring it back down, and then push it back up, and like, trust me, the stretch that you get on this is insane. And I've only recently started putting this into my routine. Before I used to do the pec deck, but I feel like with the pec deck there's a lot more of lost tension, whereas this one really helps you isolate the chest quite a lot better. Now the next exercise we have is the machine chest press. So with the chest there's two different movements that you can have. You can have the flying or the abduction movement, or you can have the press movement. So now that we've focused on a little bit of the press and we've done one exercise for the flies, this is another exercise for the press movement. Now this one is very similar to dumbbell press or bench press, but I feel like with a machine you get that extra stability and support, and it keeps your form just perfect, so you don't need to worry about, oh, my hand is slightly off and this and that. So this one just helps you focus on getting that last extra squeeze out of the pressing movement, which I really love doing this for. Next and final exercise for chest is chest dips. So with dips you can either focus on chest or triceps. Now the difference between both of them is literally just the angle at which you're leaning forward. So it's very, very much like a fine line, and literally just messing up your form a little bit could mean that you're prioritizing chest over triceps. If you want to specifically hit chest, first of all, you'll be hitting the lower chest area. This is the only lower chest exercise I have on the list, because it just helps you get that final stretch out. And what you want to do is you want to focus on leaning a little bit more forward, and then just going all the way down and pushing yourself back up. You want to make sure that your elbows are tucked in and you're not flaring your elbows so much, and just putting all the tension on your chest. I like doing these until failure. I do 2 or 3 sets until failure, just to get that final little stretch out of my chest at the end of my chest day. Now the next muscle group to focus on is necks and traps. Training neck is a little bit of a weird one. I've only very recently started training it, but if you know Bollywood, there's this one actor called Shah Rukh Khan, and I used to watch him when I was younger, and he always had this really defined neck. And it always used to make me think, like, well, this guy's body is like really aesthetic. I wish I could have an aesthetic body like this guy. And the only reason I thought that was because of his neck. If you saw the rest of his body, it wasn't even that good looking at that time. It was just his neck that looked good. And I always thought like training neck would get you like a really thick neck, but not really. It just tones your neck a bit more. And obviously, like, if you do a couple of neck exercises, it's not like your neck's going to get fat within a few weeks. And it's just really good for getting that thick, almost like masculine look to your neck. So, and traps just helps you build that V-taper and get that broad shoulders kind of look for the aesthetics. So for this section we have 3 different exercises. The first one is neck curls. Now with neck curls you want to focus on retracting your scapula and then pushing your head all the way back, and then lifting up slowly, holding at the top of the movement and then bringing it back down. When you do this, you want to make sure that you're not bracing your core, because it could very easily turn into a crunch. You mainly just want to focus on moving your neck muscle and isolating it at that range of motion. I haven't done many other neck exercises yet, so if you have any suggestions, let me know down in the comments. Now, another exercise that I do for my traps, now this is a staple that I do in all of my workouts, even if it isn't a back day, and this is farmer's carries. I don't know where I heard about this from, but I've been doing it for years now, and it's really helped me grow my traps and also my grip strength. So with this exercise, you just want to grab a really heavy weight, heavier than you can not handle, but like you just about hold it, and you want to walk up and down as many times as you can. Now some gyms have a little like a green patch of grass where they have like marked meters. It's not real grass, like AstroTurf or something. It has like marked meters or marked distance. You can go up and down that and count the meters as like reps, because it's very difficult to obviously measure distance as reps and all of that, especially if you're like tracking your reps and stuff. So I just do that as many times as I can with like a decently heavy weight. I personally do 20 kg kettlebells, You can do kettlebells or dumbbells. I feel like kettlebells are the best. And when you're doing this, you just want to make sure you have a really strict form with holding your back upright and just like pointing your chest out. So it's like just having a perfect form or a perfect posture, but an extra 20%. And then the thing is, as soon as you release those kettlebells, your body just wants to have perfect posture. So this exercise is really good for your traps, your posture muscles in your back, and your grip strength. I really recommend this exercise to everyone. Start off by putting it in your back sessions if you like it. I recommend just putting it as a staple at the end of all of your workouts, just to get that extra improvement on your grip strength and your traps, because obviously your traps are mainly your like posture muscles, having that good posture. And if you're like me, like I spent years just gaming and like sitting at my desk with a hunched over pose. People used to literally say that I had a hunchback, and I started doing this exercise and it really helped me fix my posture. Now the next exercise that I have for neck or traps is face pulls or upper body rows or whatever you really want to call it. Now with this, there's three different ways that you can do this exercise. Now the most common one that people do is they pull the rope just their face like this, which trains that one trains the traps, or you can pull it up here, which trains the rear delts. Now me personally, I pull it here, but also as you'll see in the movement, the way that I'm doing it is I'm also leaning back and forth with my body. And now the purpose of doing this is I don't just want to focus on my upper traps, I want to focus on the traps going all the way down my back and get that full stretch all the way deep in my back. Now with this, you obviously want to make sure that you're focusing on still like pulling the weight with your arms. I don't think I'm doing the best of that in the video, because if you aren't pulling the weight with your arms, you're mostly just training your lower back, just by like moving your back backwards and forwards. So you want to focus on actually pulling the weight while also going all the way back to get that deep stretch at the bottom, and then going all the way forward to get that full extension, get that full stretch from your lats and everything. The way that I do it is a little bit weird, and I look like a little bit of a weirdo while I set it up, but trust me, for the stretch that you get within your traps and just your overall back, this is 100% worth it. I've been doing it for a few years now, and it's really helped me develop my traps and just my back overall to get that really nice V-taper on my back for the aesthetic. Now the next most aesthetic muscle group, as you probably saw this one coming, is your lats. Now for lats, you obviously want to get lats. You can get that like Dorito shaped back with that V-taper to bring it all in after building up that nice upper body and having those broad shoulders. You're going to bring it down into a slim waist with that V-taper, and training your lats will really help with that. I have another 3 exercises for these. So the first one is lat pullovers. I personally don't do this currently because my back routine is just too full right now for it, but it still gets you a great stretch on your lats. With this one, you want to make sure you focus on not bending your arms. You're just trying to focus on pulling your arms down with the weight. Now the way that I'm doing it in the video isn't the most optimal way. If you want to do it a little bit more optimally, what you can do is you can get a bench and face it away from the cable machine, have the cable just above you, and then pulling it down like that in front of you. Put the bench on like a little bit of an incline, maybe like 30 degrees, and grab the weight and then just pull it down like that. And that will allow you to get all the tension out of the rest of your body and isolate the lats a lot better. Now the next exercise that I actually do is a single arm focused lat pull down. Now this one, you might see people doing it on the actual lat pull down machine. I personally do it like this on the normal cable machine with a little bit of a different setup, because this helps me isolate the lat a little bit better, because what a lot of people don't realize is the lat muscle actually wraps around your back. So doing it at this angle and slightly facing off center lets you focus on keeping your arm in line with the fibers of the back muscle and lets you get that really deep stretch. And you just want to focus on pulling your arm in and stretching it down there at the bottom, and then slowly letting it back up. And obviously you want to do both sides, as you can see in the video. Now the next exercise for your back or for your lats is your dumbbell rows. Now these are one of my favorite essentials to do. It's one of the like staples that every beginner should have in their workouts. With this, you want to make sure that you're moving the dumbbell in almost like a J motion. And another thing that you want to make sure that you have in check is you want to make sure that your body is as parallel to the floor as it can be. You don't want it completely parallel, but the way that I like to think of it is the more straight your body is, so like think about this bit here is your hip. The more straight your body is, the more higher up your back it will train. So the more and more you bend your back or the more and more you bend forwards, the more deeper in your back you'll train. So optimal angle is probably like around about there, and that's what I try and maintain within the video. And here we'll train your mid traps, or like your upper traps really well, and that's what we want to hit. And you want to make sure that you're bringing it right up to your hip to hit really deep down in the bottom of your lats and your traps. Because if you just put it up to your shoulder, then you're just hitting your rear delts, and we'll have exercise for your rear delts later anyways. But if we're trying to focus on lats and traps here in your back and getting that deep stretch there, you want to bring it up to your hip and then down right in front of you, and then just focus on getting that really nice stretch. And this is one of my most favorite exercises, honestly. I recommend you try it out. And if you want to go a little bit heavier, I recommend you get straps for this, so it will help you pull that weight up with purely just isolating that back muscle, so you won't really need to rely on your forearm strength. Now, the next muscle group that we have for aesthetics is shoulders. Obviously, this was coming to build those boulder shoulders, those cap shoulders, those 3D delts that you want to really round off your physique and have that V-taper while also having that huge upper body and that wide physique. So with this, again, we have 3 exercises that are my favorites. The first one is shoulder press. Once again, a staple every beginner should have in their workout. Now with this one, similar to how we did the dumbbell bench press at the beginning of the video, you want to make sure that you have your arms in at a 45-degree angle to take the tension out of your elbows and into your shoulders. And once again, it will keep it in line with the fibers within your shoulder. And then you just want to take it slow and then push it back up. Now, if you see in the video, on the bench, I kind of have my bum slightly moved more forward instead of it being right at the back of the seat. The reason for this is it helps me isolate the front delt of the shoulder a bit more. Because the thing is, on your delt, you have 3 different heads. You have the rear delt, the lateral delt, and the front delt. Right now with shoulder press, we're training the front delt. And in order to isolate that a little bit better, I sometimes just like to lean forward a little bit just to help me push that, push out the weight using my front delt and isolating it really, really well. And it helps me get that really nice rounded off cap shoulder look. Now the next one that we have, which will be training the lateral side of the delt, is the dumbbell lateral raise with partials. Now with this one, you want to make sure that you're focusing on lifting with your elbows and not lifting with your hands. And what I mean by this is you want to have your arms slightly bent. You don't want to have them straight out, just slightly bent like that. And then you want to make sure that you're bringing your elbows up first instead of your hands. If you bring your hands up first, then all the tension will go to your elbows. If you bring your elbows up first before your hands, all the tension will go straight to your shoulders, which is exactly where you want it. And then I've said with partials, because you don't want to have bad form when you're doing your workouts. But when it gets towards the end of your, sets, like say for example you're doing 3 sets, in your last set you can start to sacrifice form a bit, especially if you're going for failure, because that will help you get that last extra stretch in that you might not be able to get with perfect form. Obviously in your first few sets you don't want to sacrifice form, don't ego lift, because that could hurt you, but it's slightly okay towards the end. And especially in terms of range of motion, you don't need to do the full range of motion. You just want to focus on getting that full, all the way up until failure and progressive overload and just smashing it out, getting that full burn within your muscle. And I feel like with dumbbell lateral raises within the lateral delt of your shoulder, it's really, really great exercise to get that extra burn in. And because your shoulders can take a lot of volume, they're great for getting that extra little burn and just pulling it up there, holding it for a little bit, and then letting it back down. Now the next exercise for shoulders is rear delt flies. Now the way that I'm doing it in the video is a little bit weird to what you usually see. Now with this, we're using the pec deck machine, but we're not using it in the traditional way. I prefer to do it one-armed so I can get all of my focus and energy into that one arm or into that one side of the rear delt, and I can just focus on stretching it out and holding it there for a second, then bringing it back down. Now the reason that I'm doing it this specific way is because all the tension is placed in the stretch position, and that's where most of the growth happens according to the science. I haven't really looked into it that much, but from the research that I've done and working on it myself, this is what I've noticed is best. So with here, you just want to focus on getting that really deep stretch there and then pushing it out. From this motion, you might need a little bit of like assistance to push it out with your other hand, or if you have a mate or something. But once you've pushed it out, just hold it there and then bring it back down. If you're starting off as like a beginner, as you should be in this video, then it shouldn't be too hard. But if you've been training rear delts for quite a while, a lot of people don't train it from this range of motion, which is why it might be a little bit weaker from here, like from here to here. But then from here to here, it's a lot easier. So you getting that deep stretch here to get that really nice well-rounded shoulder look is definitely worth it, and that's why I recommend this exercise. Now, we've already trained most of your upper body to looking aesthetic and getting that nice V-taper, those nice capped shoulders, and that nice broad back with that huge chest. Now, we only have 2 more exercises left or 2 more body parts that you want to train for aesthetics. The next one being quads. To round off your physique and get that, like, ending to your V-taper, you want to have those tree trunk legs to make it look like you have a really strong foundation to back up that really strong V-taper. With quads, I only have 2 exercises listed here, but these are the most optimal that I've found, or they're basically just my favourites, but they work really well for getting a really good stretch within the quads. So the first one is leg extensions. With leg extensions, you want to focus on holding the weight up there at the top and then bringing it back down slowly. And also, you just want to have the back rest moved a little bit further back, because it will train muscles in your quads that aren't usually trained that well from just squats or something. Now, speaking of that, the next exercise can be one of 3, or however many you want of the 3, but usually one of 3. Sissy squats, squats, or leg press. Sissy squats are a bodyweight movement, which you can add weight to, and they're a little bit more difficult for a beginner, but if you want a little bit more variety in your workouts, it's definitely worth trying. I want to actually include them in my own routine at some point as well. I actually haven't tried them that much yet, but as far as I know, they're really good for getting a deep stretch within your quads and getting that really nice range of motion all the way down and then all the way up. And you just want to focus on getting a little bit of stability when you do this, so you might want to get a little bit of assistance from a training resistance band or just holding on to something. Now, the next exercise is squats. Squats you can do several different ways, but with squats, obviously they're a staple, they're a compound lift, they're really great for training your quads. So when you do a squat, you want to make sure that you focus on having the weight higher up on your traps. So for example, if you're doing a barbell squat, you want to hold the barbell just at the top of your traps rather than like a little bit lower down, because then that when you squat down, it'll help you go deeper into that squat, but going straight down rather than like, because if you imagine it, like if we go back to this bent position, it'll help you go down like that, more like, if that makes sense, rather than going down like that. I don't know if that's making any sense, but you want to focus on going straighter down if you want to focus on your quads, whereas bending this way a bit more will target your glutes more. So if you want to focus on quads, you want to have it a little bit further up, so it'll help you go more vertically down rather than horizontally. And then next to that, we have leg press. Leg press is one of my favorites. This one, once again, you want to focus on your foot placement and having it as low down as possible, sometimes with your foot half hanging off of the plate, because this will allow you to focus on your quads more specifically. The higher up your feet are, the more that it will focus on your hamstrings and your glutes. Now, the final exercise, and you know we couldn't end off without mentioning biceps. Biceps is one of the most aesthetic parts of your body, especially when it comes to having those nice round full arms that like fill up your t-shirts. Now, you're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned triceps, because a lot of gym bros out there will say, oh, but triceps fill up 2/3 of the arm and you need to focus on those and this and that, and that's very much true. But the thing is, with triceps, I feel like if you want to have the most aesthetic arms, they don't really help that much, because the thing is, the tricep has 2 main heads, the long head down there and the short head up here. Now, because of the short head, having a really big tricep can make it sometimes look like your arm just has a random lump here. And I don't know, just personally to me, that doesn't look the most aesthetic. Whereas having a really strong bicep, because it goes all the way down, all of the heads, it can help you have that really nice rounded look to your arm. And like, I've seen a lot of people just tensing their arm and they just have like a slither of a bicep and then they have some huge tricep. Like, imagine having the full bicep and having that really nice rounded arm look. So I've put more of a focus on biceps within my arm sessions. So there's 3 different exercises again, and there's also 2 different parts, but one muscle that kind of helps the bicep look better. So there's the long head, which is here, and then there's the long head is on the inside and the short head is on the outside. And then underneath the bicep muscles, you have the brachialis. The brachialis kind of helps push your bicep peak out a little bit. The short head focuses on the peak, so like when you have your arm curled like that little peak there. And then the long head is when you have your arm stretched out like that. It's the full look that it gives to your arm over there. So the first exercise is concentration curls, which will focus on your mind-muscle connection and your peak of the bicep. So with this, you want to make sure that you're obviously concentrating on your bicep because that's in the name of the exercise. But what I see a lot of beginners do is they tend to place their elbow on top of their knee during the movement, which is okay, but it takes all the stability and like it leaves your elbow to move around freely. What I like to do is I put the elbow on the inside of my knee so that my elbow is locked in there, my elbow can't go anywhere, and I'm fully isolating the bicep and just taking it slowly, focusing on bringing the weight up and then bringing it slowly back down. Another thing that I like to do when I'm training concentration curls is I want to have my hand on the inside of the weight so that it allows me to easily curl up the weight with my pinky going up first. Now the purpose of doing this is that it will bias the short head of the bicep a little bit more, helping me get that peak. And I tend to do this within all of my bicep exercises, which you'll see in a second. Now the next exercise is hammer curls. Hammer curls focuses on the brachialis, which I mentioned earlier, which helps push out your bicep to emphasize the peak a little bit more. And also, if you're doing a back double bicep pose, sometimes if you're really lean, you can see the brachialis there popping through. Now with the hammer curls, you can do these one of 2 ways. You can do a crossbody hammer curl, or you can do it just a normal hammer curl. With the crossbody hammer curl, I feel like too much of my back muscles come in, and I like to obviously isolate my muscles to get that full stretch out of the individual muscle itself. So I like to just do a normal hammer curl. I first start off by doing these both arms on the bench, sometimes one arm on the bench, and then if I want to go to a failure, obviously to like sacrifice a little bit of the form at the end to get a little bit more juice out of it and a little bit more gains, I stand up and like kind of go a little bit swinging just to get a few cheat reps in for those few final reps until failure. But hammer curls are a great way to focus on the brachialis, and I think it's the brachioradial, don't quote me, I don't know the specific name, but there's another muscle in your forearm which also gets trained specifically during this exercise. And it's just a great way to build thicker, more full arms. Now the next exercise for arm, or the final exercise for biceps, is normal curls. Your bog standard normal curls, you just focus on bringing the weight up, holding it there for as long as possible, and then bringing it down. Once again, you can either do this both arms at the same time or one arm at a time, sitting down, standing up, whatever you really want to do. I like to do it, like I said before, where I sit down at first and then stand up. In the video, I'm doing it standing up because I couldn't really find a bench at the time of filming. But once again, here, I'm actually bringing my pinky inwards first because I want to focus on that peak more specifically. But this will be hitting both heads of the bicep. Because you're not doing a specific concentration curl, it will still hit most of the long head as well. But it helps hit the majority of the bicep, and it's really great for just doing a little bit of a finisher to hit the overall bicep and get those really nice full arms. Now, in terms of workout routines, there's several different things you can do. You'll see a lot of things online about, oh, but upper lower is more optimal for like if you're a beginner, and but PPL is more optimal if you've like been doing it for years and you need to hit it this many times a week and this and that. And like, there's so much out there and there's so much fluff. But honestly, my best recommendation to you is, even though certain things might be better for science or might be more optimal, do what works best for you. Focus on these exercises, focus on these aesthetic muscles, because that will help you reach the aesthetic goal that you want. But do it in whatever routine that you want. My personal routine is push-pull legs, but I do it slightly mixed up just to match my own personal routine with active rest days. So what I mean by an active rest day is I hit a little bit of a workout in the middle on my rest day just to keep my body active because I like being physical. So let me just quickly run you through it. On a Monday, I hit legs with abs, and then I do a 30-minute run after that. Tuesday is my rest day, so I do a little bit of a full body kettlebell. Wednesday, I do my back day with another 30-minute run. Thursday, rest day, kettlebells. Friday, I do my push day. So Wednesday is my pull day, and Friday is my push day, so chest, shoulders, tris, and 30-minute run. Saturday, kettlebells, and then Sunday I have an extra arms day just to focus on my arms because I feel like that's a little bit of a weak point for me. So if you want to follow my specific routine and you have a specific weak point that you want to work on, you can put that on your Sundays if you wish. And then obviously I try and do the 30-minute run afterwards as well. And that's my routine. Feel free to copy my routine and try it out. But I always recommend you just do whatever feels best for you and do whatever you enjoy. Because honestly, the only way you're going to get a good workout is doing a workout that you enjoy. You can't be sitting there doing a workout that you absolutely hate and just getting bored of it, because you're not going to have a good pump at the end of it. You can only get a good pump if you actually enjoy getting the pump, right? So you just want to focus on getting that, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you try any new exercises, or if you try any of my exercises that I've listed here, let me know how it goes for you. Let me know if there's any new exercises you want me to think about, because there's always something new coming out, right? Like there's a dumbbell lateral cable pullover sort of thing, I don't know. There's always something new. So let me know in the comments. I'll be down to check it out and let you know how it goes. But yeah, that's it for me today. See you in the next one.